Hey guys, my name is Tariq Abdel Photo. I'm an adventure and music photographer based out of Portland, Oregon. And in this video, we're going to be focusing primarily on the music photography experience. Now, a couple of quick disclaimers. I do a lot of my work in the EDM industry. I've worked with artists like Rez, Phase One, Bonnie and Clyde, and I'm on my way to work with Arias as I record this video. That said, advice in this video pertains to what I've gone through and what has worked for me in the past. And at the time of recording this video, I still have my day job. I'm literally on PTO right now, but I've experienced some of the best moments of my life during my music photography journey, and I want to share some of my tips and tricks so that you can experience the same. This vlog portion of the video was actually super difficult, and I don't know if my mask muffled up the audio, but with the hook out of the way, let's get this video started. Alright, so before I get into all the tips and tricks, I want to tell you how I got into music photography, because there's definitely more than one way to get into the industry. If you want to skip to the tips and tricks, I'm going to put a timestamp right here. I'll also put it in the description below. Anyways, I want to tell you my story and how I got into it, and hopefully you can find similarities in case you're in the same position that I was in. I'm going to try to keep this story somewhat concise, but it actually starts all the way back in 2009. But before we get into it, I gotta catch this flight to Orlando, so I'm gonna catch you guys on the flip side.
I work at the airport, and you know how I get in on
Before we continue on, it's story time. Me, my brother, and two of my friends went to our first concert. It was a band named Escape the Fate, and they were playing at the Hawthorne Theater back in Portland. I had my first camera with me at the time, and I remember always wanting to capture important life moments. Here's a photo I managed to recover of their bassist at the time. You can consider this my first official concert photo. After the show, I became obsessed with going to rock and pop punk shows. I ended up going to Warped Tour the following 5 summers. And between my 2 old cameras and my iPhone 4S, made sure to capture as many cool moments as possible. Fast forward to 2016, I am well immersed in the EDM scene. But at that point in my life, I was also focusing on school, and I only really captured moments with my iPhone. It was a specific festival in Eugene, Oregon, where I noticed a photographer capturing the show, and I thought to myself, how can I do that? The following day, I reached out to the photographer on Twitter, and his advice was to start shooting, struggle for a few years, hopefully get better, expect nothing, work hard, and focus on the images you're creating. And that's what I did. In February of 2017, it was the first small show I shot at the start of this new journey I was on. My friend James, aka Mutagen, who worked with me at my day job at the time, invited me to photograph him after learning I was interested in photographing live music. Now, this was as small and local as it gets, but at least I was able to bring my camera into the venue. I ended up shooting for James a couple more times that year, one of those events being his own. At the same time, I was working from a different angle, through a DJ friend of mine. I discovered KPSU, which was my university's radio station. Long story short, KPSU became my first publication that I joined as a photographer and a writer. And through KPSU and other publications that I joined throughout 2017 and 2018, I was able to shoot many Portland and Washington shows on their behalf. And in that, I learned not only the basics when shooting in low light, but how to professionally send cold emails as well. During that part of my journey, I photographed Somo, ASAP Ferg, G-Eazy, the final Warped Tour in Oregon, and I even was lucky enough to get on stage for the EDM artist Borges. That's to name just a very few of the artists I was lucky enough to get a photo pass for, all due to joining my university's radio station. Now in 2018 is when things started to pick up speed. I had the opportunity to shoot Summer Meltdown Festival and Bass Canyon, both in Washington State. Pabst Blue Ribbon's team had reached out to me to photograph their event with A Boogie. Liquid Stranger's team had reached out to me for Thunderdome in Tacoma. By 2019, the rest is history. I joined a production company here in Portland and photographed almost every EDM event that they hosted. I worked directly with artists such as Tritonal, Madeon, and Rez, and even joined Bonnie and Clyde at an after party in Vancouver, Canada. To add on to that, I worked media team gigs for Paradiso and Lucky Festival that year. By February 1st of 2020, exactly 3 years since starting my journey, I was working with Phase 1 at the second Thunderdome event in Tacoma. 2 days together capturing photo and video. I was having the time of my life. Now my story concludes in March of 2020. I had pending gigs for Beyond Wonderland and Coachella, and then the world shut down. That's pretty much the gist of my story. It took me 3 years. It took me 3 years to get to that point. And with the world returning to normal again, I want to teach you what I've learned in the last 3 to 4 years, big and small, so that you can experience the same as well. If you've reached this point of the video, or skipped all the way here, that means you're trying to make it in music photography in some shape or form. I just want to disclaim again that this is what's worked for me, and that there's really no formula to it. The rest of this video will be in my studio and will include some obvious tips, but I'm going to include some secrets as well. If you're really committed, then hang tight. It's time to really get started. The very first tip is, well, understanding your camera settings and how to edit. This is pretty obvious, but understand that concerts will sometimes have very low light, and if you're unable to change your camera settings on the fly or edit your darker photos in post, you're getting into this a little too quickly. I suggest pausing here and watching my 5 tips for the beginner photographer video. I cover things like aperture, shutter speed, ISO, composition, and even shooting your photos in RAW. I'll link to it right up here. My next tip is building a portfolio or website. This is gonna be the base of all of your work. Music photos or not, you need to have a portfolio, and I'm not talking about an Instagram feed. This begs the question, how do you build a portfolio if you don't have access to the photo pit? Well, that's the hardest thing about this. You may need to humble yourself and start small, even if it means shooting for free. For all of 2017 and some of 2018, I shot work for free. Just like I mentioned earlier in this video, I started out as small and local as I could. I just needed to get my camera into the venue. So when your local clubs and venues open back up, depending on when this video is published, they might already be open. Make sure to contact them. Offer free work in the context of building that portfolio. Shoot as many photos as you can at these smaller shows. Meet as many people as you can at these smaller shows. Just use that time to build your portfolio and your network. Now let's talk about outreach. If you're looking to build that portfolio with a smaller artist, or maybe get hired by someone more established, start by finding out if an artist is coming into your town. Find out what concerts and events are happening in your area. Once you find someone that you align with and would like to work with, it's best to find out who their management is. And I wanna say about 75% of the time, you can find out who their management is on their Facebook page. It will be in the About section of their specific page. Alternatively, their Instagram accounts will sometimes have an email available as well. Remember, start small. Reach out to smaller artists because they're most likely not going to have a traveling photographer already with them. You'll have a lot more luck if you start as small as you can in the beginning. Do that as much as you can. Work with as many new artists as you can. Learn the ins and outs of your camera settings. Try to meet as many new people as possible and build that portfolio. Continue this for however long it takes until you feel comfortable with your body of work. Then you can begin scaling it up by looking into bigger artists to work with or even festivals in your area.
At that point, you can start going through festival lineups and finding smaller artists or artists that you'd like to work with. Just offer them something enticing and give them a reason to want to work with you at a rate that will work for the both of you. Which leads me to my next tip, sending that cold email. Starting with the subject line, you want to keep it simple and straight to the point. Here's the format that I use. Artist name at festival or venue name / date of the event. The next section is the introduction. Include a quick greeting, your name, and what you're reaching out about. In some cases, you can say where you're from as well. If you don't say why you're reaching out right in the beginning of the email, it most likely won't even be looked at. Next part is your portfolio and your services. You can do this in many ways, but I find it best to link directly to your site or portfolio's most important pages. If you can't link to your services directly, include them in the email concisely. This can include your rate if you'd like, but you risk them not replying because they will already know the rate is too high. Or in some cases, they might not take you seriously if the rate is too low. In my case, I like to leave the rate out of the first email. I like to reel them in with my work first and then negotiate second. Lastly, and this is my own little secret with my cold emails, is attaching your COI right in the beginning. Don't wait for them to ask. It reassures the management that you're a serious candidate and it is worth reaching back out to you, especially if your work is good. You might be asking, what's a COI? Well, that's a certificate of insurance, and you will definitely need one. One of the reasons it's so hard to work for an established artist or a festival is because of the production. When you receive higher or even all access to these events, you're surrounded by risk and liability. Cables will be all over the ground. LED screens will be all over the place. You're gonna experience pyro. These are just a couple of the things you'll need to watch out for. Yeah, you're gonna need insurance. I mean, imagine something happening and you are not insured. That's the last thing that you're gonna want. I'll add a contact for the insurance agents that I use in the description below. That's all the main tips I have for this video, but I will end with some final pointers that should come in handy as you're getting started.
Be kind and professional. When you're first getting started in the music festival world, you want to be respectful of other creatives around you and the access that you're granted.
Focus on your work and stay in your own lane. If you find yourself comparing to those who have been in the industry for much longer, or those on your level who are getting into more shows, you'll become resentful. Stay away from all of that. Just keep doing you, focus on your own path. It's going to be different than everyone else's. Wear earplugs. I'm being serious. At one electronic show, I was standing next to a speaker when the bass dropped, and this is what I heard. I'm being serious, don't forget them.
Wear black. I hate to say it, but nobody cares to see you on stage or in the photo pit. You're the least important person at the show. Don't get noticed.
The first 3 songs. When you're not necessarily hired by the artist, but you're shooting with a photo pass instead, most likely for free, you're only gonna be able to shoot for the first 3 songs. So you'll have 9 to 12 minutes per artist to capture amazing photos for your portfolio. Once you reach a point where you're only taking on paid shows, know your worth. Don't work for a rate that you're not happy with. Understand the amount of hours you're going to be putting in shooting their set and the editing hours as well. And lastly, put in the work. Lose sleep. Have a flipped schedule. Get all the photos turned in by noon next day. Learn to shoot in all lighting conditions. Learn to edit low light photos. Be safe when you're on set. Just know that it can take months to even years to really build that traction. Like I said earlier in my video, in case you skipped it, my journey started in 2017, and it's 2021 now. So that's 3 to 4 years of experience, not including 2020, and I'm still learning every single day. I hope that my story and this advice at least gives you a place to start. I know all of this can seem overwhelming, but I promise if you go step by step, take your time, enjoy the journey, you're gonna have the most amazing growing experience and some of the best moments of your life doing what you love. If you found this information valuable, please make sure to like the video for the YouTube algorithm for other creatives and music photographers to find this video as well. And don't forget to subscribe, yes you, so you don't miss videos just like this one that I'll be posting in the future. Lastly, please make sure to leave your thoughts on this video in the comments. Let me know if you like this vlog, hybrid style video, and if I should make more like this one. Thanks for watching guys, I'll see you in the next video.